What's up everyone? In this video today, I'm going to talk to you about some of the differences in shooting with your dominant eye versus your non-dominant eye. We'll see you in a second. So I got the idea for this video today from a viewer that had commented on one of my previous videos asking about shooting the second target in doubles with your non-dominant eye, asking for some help, for some tips on that. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of cover this in terms of all three disciplines, but I will specifically be talking about that second target in doubles too. So thank you very much for the comment, for the video idea. I really appreciate it. Keep these video ideas coming. I enjoy getting them. It helps me pump out content that is hopefully helpful to you guys. So keep those coming. Let's go ahead and dive right into the topic here today, which is shooting with your non-dominant eye instead of shooting with your dominant eye. So there is somewhat of a myth out there, I think, in shooting that you have to shoot with your dominant eye to be a great shooter. You don't have to do that. So I have heard some people pretty much heavily say that you really need to shoot with your dominant eye to be a great shooter. That is the easiest way, full disclosure, it's the easiest way to become a great shooter is to shoot with your dominant hand and your dominant eye matched up. So for example, if you're a right-handed person and you're right eye dominant, that's the best scenario, or you're a left-handed person and left eye dominant. That's the best scenario for you to be shooting with that dominant hand and the dominant eye matched up. So the second best scenario is to have your dominant eye in your non-dominant hand. So this is totally fine to have your dominant eye. It's more important to shoot with your dominant eye than it is to shoot with your dominant hand, definitely. If I had to choose between the two, I would choose the dominant eye, which is what I did for years. Whenever I first started shooting, I was a right-handed shooter. Then I found out I'm left eye dominant, so I switched hands. Now I have had an injury, so I'm switching back to right-handed. The majority of my shells, if I probably shot 80,000 shells, probably 77,000 of them have been left-handed. So the overwhelming majority of the shells that I've shot over the course of my life have come as a left-handed shooter. So you have to understand the nuances of this. If you're going to start shooting with your non-dominant eye, or let's say you're somebody that's new to the game and you are shooting with your non-dominant eye, you have to understand that. But before we go into that, I would like to say that if you do have the ability to switch hands to go over to shooting with your dominant eye, don't be afraid of it. It's really not that difficult. The hardest part's gonna be getting your gun fit. Once you get your gun fit, you can pretty well just get the rounds down the barrel and you're gonna get used to it physically, and you're gonna see a target a lot better. You're gonna see it quicker. Maybe better was kind of a bad word there, but you're gonna see it quicker, not necessarily better. So that's the first thing. This kind of brings me to my first point in shooting with your non-dominant eye versus your dominant eye. The first thing that I noticed is that I started seeing the target just a little bit slower with my non-dominant eye. So whenever I would look at the target with my dominant eye, I saw it quite a bit noticeably quicker than I do now with my non-dominant eye. So that means that whenever I'm out there shooting, it's not a big deal as long as I take it into my game plan that I'm going to need to give myself just a little bit more time to lock onto that target and really see it clearly. So let's say, for example, that whenever I shot with my dominant eye, so I shot left-handed, let's say I broke the target somewhere around 38 to 40 foot in singles. Maybe now I have to break it somewhere between 43 and 45 foot. So it's not a huge difference at all, but it is enough to be noticeable that you're going to have to intentionally go out there and start doing that. So keep that in mind, and I've really found that to be true on that second target in doubles, is I had to slow down a little bit. So for me, I've always been somebody that shoots that first target slower in doubles just because I found that I can be a lot more consistent doing that. So whenever I my scores kind of started coming up in doubles is whenever I slowed down on that first target, and I kind of kept the same rhythm between the first and second target. But what that does is allow me to feel more comfortable and allow me to shoot both of those targets whenever they were at a slower speed, if you will. So I went ahead and kept that philosophy whenever I went over to shooting right-handed, is I'm still going to break the first target a little bit slower. So I probably break the first target at about the same speed I did left-handed, but whenever I go over to that second target, so the timing between the first target and the second target is a little bit longer, as well as I'm trying to get my eyes off of that first target quicker. So I'm not allowing myself really any time to even tell if that first target's broke. As soon as I go up and pull the trigger, I'm moving my eyes over to that second target as quick as possible. Now, I'm still obviously following through and making a good move, but I want to maximize the time. I think this is the best way to put it. Maximize the time that I can look at that second target. And that's really going to be helpful. And so, you know, if you're somebody that maybe you shoot doubles really, really quick, I think if you start shooting with your non-dominant eye, or maybe you're new and you're already shooting with your non-dominant eye, if you're going to slow down, if you would slow down a little bit, I think that that would help you out a lot. Now in handicaps, it is different as well. In singles, it's not as big of a deal because, you know, you're up there at the 16-yard line. It's pretty close anyway, so you're not going to notice things as much as you are back once you start getting back in handicaps. Start shooting that second target in doubles. That's where you're going to notice things the most. But in singles, it is a little bit different because I have had to take just a little bit more time to allow myself to lock in. Now in handicaps, I have had to take significantly more time. I'm shooting a long yardage, so that's probably some of it. You know, maybe if you're up there to short yardage, maybe even mid yardage, that early stage of mid yardage, then you're not going to have to do that as much. But, you know, I would go ahead and recommend that you kind of get your mind wrapped around a game plan. So that's the whole thing. You know, whenever you're starting shooting with your non-dominant eye, your game plan is going to have to change a little bit. But don't go out there and totally change everything. So for me, I still have the same mental routine. I still have the same physical routine, that I'm doing all the same things whenever I'm out there shooting. I'm just understanding that I'm going to have to make a few minor adjustments. Like I have to understand that I'm going to have to shoot slower with my non-dominant eye than I did with my dominant eye. I understand that I'm going to have to take a better look at the target. I'm going to have to make sure that I have my eyes set well. I'm going to have to make sure that I have my hold point set well, because my room for error on these things is a little bit less than it was whenever I was shooting my dominant eye. Doesn't mean that you can't be just as good of a shooter with your non-dominant eye. It just means that you have to understand these things in your mind and understand how to overcome them by doing things like becoming a master, setting your hold point. You don't have to take a target or two to where you really don't have it set right. You learn to walk out there and set it at the look target and to set it perfectly. You learn to be disciplined and understand where, hey, I need to be looking here. I need to make sure that I give myself this certain amount of time from the time that I pull the gun up to the time I call pull, to give my eyes the ability to really lock in and to get ready to go pounce on that target and turn it into a big puffball. And you need to understand the timing. Timing is such a big thing in shooting. And it really comes from how fast can you see the target. Not only how fast, but how well. So for me, for example, I can honestly say that with my dominant eye, I saw the target probably whole and clear, probably like 15 foot out of the house. I mean, I have been blessed with a really good pair of eyes that, you know, I really don't have vision issues that much. I see a target very quickly. So I had to slow down a little bit. So the phrase whole and clear target, wait till you see the target whole and clear, may not necessarily apply to everybody. And this is something that I would talk about with some of the older shooters out at the club. And they're like, yeah, I totally understand, because whenever I was young, I was there too, you know. And so I had to understand that, you know, even though it's whole and clear, I have to wait a little bit. So understanding that timing is so key in shooting, you know, that you're consistently breaking the target at the same point. So, and it's really more. And so what I'm talking about is, let's say in singles, because I think that's the easiest way to depict this. So let's say that you're breaking the target, right? So you have your trap house down here, and then you have the skyline up here. So let's say that this is one thing that you really need to be disciplined at, is your break points. So let's say you're going to break all the targets here. So that means that every single target, you should be able to draw an imaginary line in the sky, and you should break them all right here. This is a big concept to understand if you're going to be great shooting with your non-dominant eye, is that break point, that consistency. So for me, let's say this is about 35 foot out. The target is 35 foot out. Well, like I said, I'm seeing it down here, whole and clear. So I had to learn to be disciplined to break it up here. A big part of that was understanding how to set my hold point, and not only to set my hold point, but to be disciplined to wait on the target to come above the barrel. And that is really key, guys. If you're going to shoot with your non-dominant eye, you gotta wait on that target to come above the barrel. And sometimes, you know, I find myself, I'm out there, I'm like waiting, and it's like feels so long, you know, because you're ready, you know, you're excited to be out there, you're ready to go bang and just hit that target hammer. But you gotta be patient, wait on it to come above your barrel. So these are some of the things I would say that you need to focus on. Focus on the timing, which is basically your break point. Make sure you're breaking it at a good even spot. So you don't want to have one target where you're breaking it at 45, 50 foot out, and one target you're breaking at 35 foot out from the house. You want that to be nice and even. Obviously everybody's going to have a little bit of variance, but go watch some of the great shooters. Go watch them at some of the bigger tournaments. We have the Grand American coming up, so go on Pre-Squad, look, see, maybe even the shoot-offs, go to the grandstands, watch these great shooters shoot. The first thing that you'll notice about them is that they break the target incredibly hard. The second thing you'll notice about them is the consistency, from the gun mount to the stance and even the break point. This is what I'm talking about. Watch them break the target at the same time all the way across the field. They'll do it almost every single time. And it is really a reason why you can be a great shooter if you're non-dominant eye. That you have to master not jumping the target, getting your hold point set right, getting your eyes set right, and breaking the target at the same spot every time, which is related to your timing. If you learn to do all these things, you can be a great shooter for non-dominant eye. And the thing is, even if you are shooting for dominant eye, you're still going to have to be really, really good at all these things. You just have a little bit more room for error because you're shooting with more your body's natural inclination, if you will. If you're shooting for non-dominant eye, you're kind of going against that way that your body naturally wants to shoot. Doesn't mean you can't be a great shooter. It just means that you have to understand some of the challenges that go along with that. So thank you so much for the video idea. I really appreciated it. I hope this video helped you guys out. Please subscribe to my channel here, and you can also watch a couple other videos here. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.